Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Adam Turner. We'll be discussing his fantastic book, Pain, available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. And guys, I will say that Adam was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by some of the best movers in the business. Author Reputation Press Publishing. So if you have a book that you'd like moved, do yourself a favor and contact ARP. And you can find out more information on them at authorreputationpress.com. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Adam, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you so much for being a guest. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we're very much looking forward to this. And, you know, aside from the great message underneath, right, and the things to be picked up and gained, just from sheer enjoyment, right, just for the journey that we're going to be able to embark upon, and I'll be the first to say it, and I'm sure my listening audience can relate. After the past year and a half or so that we've been dealing with this pandemic and the variation of lockdown that we've all experienced, I've been yearning for a journey, a safe journey, that will allow me to border outside of the four walls that I've been confined in and leave the day-to-day monotony of this COVID living situation, Adam. And I think your book is that perfect exit strategy. The journey is going to be so much fun. Adam, let's start off. Tell our listening audience a little bit more about your background and yourself, please.
There's not much to tell. I attended college a few years ago, dropped out, basically spent the past 11 or so years writing this book. It was an off and on process, but when I finally finished it, it was amazing to have it done.
We're very glad that you stuck with it and you persevered and, you know, remained consistent, because now we have this wonderful final product. So Adam, let's jump right in. Let's learn a little bit more about your book, Pain. Tell us a little bit more about it.
It was inspired from the way people would share their life stories with me and how they wished it could have been different. And it took me a while to realize, I suppose, that you can't go back and make it different. But what you can do, you can make your life different now by making a change.
Now, Adam, let's go a little bit more in depth. Talk to us about, of course, without giving too much away, but talk to us about your main protagonist, because I know she encounters something different, correct? I mean, talk to us about really your main protagonist and the journey that she encroaches upon and her story that we encounter.
So Sky's story is she grew up with alcoholic, abusive parents her whole life. Never really had any friends, never really could find the right guy to fall in love with, shitty jobs. And one day, as she's drinking away, trying to deal with it all, she actually hears a voice, and it haunts her for a while, telling her she's not worth it, essentially. And she's had enough. She throws herself into traffic to try and end it all. And as she wakes up, she realizes she's in a very old house. And as the journey goes on, she starts to meet the different people who live inside this house. And they're all very strange people, physically and otherwise. And her journey is realizing that she can help these people along their way while still trying to help herself, too, and get the help that she needs.
Mm-hmm. Again, without going into too much depth, it seems like your book has a lot of symbolic representation. Now, again, as you stated, your main protagonist is dealing with her own demons. And unfortunately, as so many people do, they succumb to those demons and they try to end their lives, right? I mean, that's the only exit strategy that they can see. So they take that. Right. Now, she wakes up in this old home with these strange figures around her. In your opinion, when you were creating this, again, hopefully we're not encroaching on too much here, and we don't want to give too much away, but is there some symbolic representation with either A, the house that she wakes up in, or the people around her? Talk to us a little bit more about your thought process when you were creating this world.
I won't dive too much into it, but actually the first idea was for her to wake up in a hotel, actually. And it felt more right, I suppose, to have it be an actual house where I think people feel more comfortable in.
Adam, let's go into inspiration. Now, you said you were working on this book off and on for, I believe you said, 11 years. So this is a long journey, right? A long commitment that you've been working with for a number of years now. Now, first and foremost, since inspiration can take multiple levels. First and foremost, what inspired this particular narrative?
I don't quite remember what the first spark was, but again, it was people sharing their life stories with me, wishing that it could be different. And I just kind of took that and rolled with it, I guess.
Now, sticking with the concept of inspiration, in terms of writing, stepping away from the book slightly, but in terms of writing, Adam, did you always want to be a writer growing up? Was writing something that you were always interested in? Was it a hobby of yours? Were there particular artists that inspired you? Talk to us a little bit more about what inspired you to embark upon this creative journey.
For as long as I remember, I always wanted to write and always wanted to be a writer. I just don't think at the time I knew what that meant up until I got to that point of where I am today with the book.
Mm-hmm. And where did that interest come from? Was that something you always just had within yourself? Or were there particular writers growing up that you always gravitated towards and they helped you build and develop this passion?
You know, it's funny because people ask me how much I read all the time. And always growing up, I actually never read that much. I think it was just always something that I wanted to create something.
Mm-hmm. Again, here on the line with Adam Cherner. We're discussing his fantastic book, Pain, available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. You know, Adam, next question that I'd love to go into. Talk to our listening audience about some of the research that you did in preparation for this book.
So most of the research I did, the biggest part was actually on mental illnesses. Some of the characters Sky meets in the house, I wanted their lives, the reason that they're in the house, I wanted it to seem more real. So it was like bipolar, depression, hoarding was one, what people go through when they're trying to deal with addiction problems. That was the biggest part of research there, I believe.
Following off of that, pertaining to the research that you conducted, Adam, we know that your book is a fictional narrative. But this has stark contrasts, as I said to you in the pre-screening call, and also as I mentioned earlier in this interview. This book and this narrative has stark contrasts to very real-life circumstances and real-life situations. We know that the suicide rate has just continued to increase in the past number of years. And as the burden of life becomes more and more, or heavier and heavier, rather, it only makes things more dangerous with regards to depression and suicide. Now, through your research, Adam, what did you come across in terms of tips that you may be able to relay to our listening audience? Because, of course, I mean, again, I by no means am I an expert, and by no means did I look up the statistics regarding this. But, guys, let's call a spade. With this pandemic and the obstacles, the adversity, the turbulence that we've all felt, and again, the severity of that turbulence varies based upon the individual. But I would assume, and I think it's fair to assume, that the suicide rate is probably, if not already, going to go up, given the amount of turbulence that we've all experienced. Now, if there's any listening audience members out, of course, very unfortunately. Now, Adam, since we have you on the line and since you've done that research, if there's any of our listening audience members that are out there listening in right now, going through their own tough time and can't see the light at the end of the tunnel and maybe are starting to approach that depression stage, were there any words of wisdom that you picked up during your research that you could relay to our listening audience that may be able to help somebody listening in?
Well, Benji, I'm going to ask you a question on that I think will help. Do you know what the biggest misconception of fear is?
I do not, no.
Yeah, I believe that that it's a bad thing. People believe fear is a horrible thing, that you shouldn't be afraid at all. Now, I believe that is false. I believe fear can actually be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
The trick is you can't let it control your life. It's okay to be afraid. It's a good thing to feel fear. But people, I believe, when they start to feel this way, when they're feeling down, they're afraid to try and get help. I think you need to try and take that fear and use it to motivate you to try and get the help that you need.
I love what you just said. And the reason why I love it, because I can absolutely relate to it. I think that there is so much benefit. And again, listen, it doesn't feel good when you're experiencing fear. It doesn't feel good when you're experiencing anger. It doesn't feel good when you're experiencing depression. But I think that in my personal opinion, I think that there is so much value to be gained in exploring those emotions and doing it in a safe way, right? Utilizing it and shifting your perception. Because really what you're talking about here is utilizing that fear and shifting your perception to convert it into a positive thing, to actually help spur you in the right direction. So often, when we have fear or we experience fear, we duck away from it, right? We cower away from it, and we actually hurt ourselves because of it. We hold ourselves back. And correct me if I'm wrong, but what it sounds like you're saying is it's all about shifting your perception, utilizing that emotion or that experience, and finding the silver lining to really propel yourself forward. Is that correct?
I believe so. I believe you need to take those feelings to take that fear to help motivate you to do what you need to do to get help.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Adam. I absolutely love that advice. Fantastic, guys. Again, all about shifting that perception. That makes all the difference. Fantastic. Adam, curiosity for myself, man, what would you say was a highlight? I mean, this is a journey that has spanned over 11 years, give or take. What would you say was a highlight for you in that journey? Or if not a highlight, maybe something that surprised you that prior to be embarking upon this journey, you weren't expecting.
Honestly, I think the highlight was when it was all said and done. And after I got it published, I had some of my friends read it. And obviously they're my friends. I thought, they're going to tell me good things about it, of course. They told me one or two negative things and then said it was amazing and that they were proud of me.
It's always wonderful to get your art and have it be received well. I know that feeling myself. So that's wonderful, Adam. Congratulations on that, man. Listen, as we close out of this fantastic interview, as I mentioned before, I'm an artist myself, and I'm in a different medium. I'm an actor and a filmmaker based here in Los Angeles, but I love having this platform. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. I love having this platform, though, to be able to pay it forward to other artists out there listening in. Now, here through People of Distinction, we have artists from every medium there is. But in specific to this case, since we're talking about your book, specifically to writers. Again, your journey has spanned over 11 years now. And this is something that you always, as you stated, had an interest in. So for any new writers out there, Adam, listening in, not only did you go through the journey, battle, writer's block, overcome the obstacles in your 11-year journey and create the narrative, but you also went and got the book published. And anybody that has been through the journey understands that writing the book is only half the battle. So I'd love to take this opportunity, Adam, for our listening audience any writers out there, any new writers out there listening in, what words of wisdom would you be able to give them?
Don't ever give up. You just it's a long and painful process, but if you keep trying at it, it's worth it in the end.
There you have it. There you have it. Concise, direct to the point. I absolutely love it. And guys, you know what's even better about that is fantastic advice for any writers out there. But really, you can take that. I mean, that's a copy and paste moment that you can put into any scenario, right? I mean, it's just great advice for life.
True.
Don't give up. Never give up. At the end of the day, guys, we know once you get to a certain age, adversity is a part of life. I mean, as much as we would like to avoid it, and kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, there's silver linings, right? There's education to be gained. There's knowledge to be gained through those adversity, through that experience. And we know that's how wisdom is created. It's through the experience that you go through. And by persevering, by never giving up, not only, do you make yourself battle-tested, you make yourself stronger and more competent, right, to deal with life's hardships. But guys, you also end up enjoying your final product. Because as Adam said, I mean, listen, this is an 11-year journey. The part that he enjoyed the most was once it was completed. And that doesn't mean that he didn't enjoy the journey, but he was able to enjoy the fruit of his labor once it was completed. And then to get the positive feedback, it made it all worth it. I absolutely love it. Guys, listen, you know what you have to do. I'm going to say it for you one more time, even though I know I don't have to. I know half of you are already there. For everybody else, I don't know what you're waiting on. Here on the line with Adam Turner, we just finished discussing his fantastic book, Pain, available for purchase through Amazon as well as BarnesandNoble.com. A fantastic journey for you to embark upon solely for pure entertainment, but also a wonderful education to receive as well, because let's call a spade a spade. We're all human, and pain is an emotion that we experience. And how we deal with that could make all the difference. So pick up this fantastic book, learn from his characters, and implement some of those positive messages into your day-to-day lives. Adam, this has been a wonderful, wonderful experience. Thank you very much for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction.
Thank you so much for having me again.